flooding, and that's a thing that can sneak up on you. You know, if you see water in the road, hey, if you've got to go that way, get out of your car and see how deep it is. Don't go through it if it's real deep.
Many people have made a bad mistake trying to cross water. You know, when I finally delayed taking Maggie to Troy Elementary School, after I dropped her off, I drove on down and went by the middle school, and that little creek that goes in front of their football field.
Yeah,
it was a lake, way overflowed, and then the creek that goes in front of the golf course, the practice facility, it looked like the Colorado River.
Yeah, it can be real dangerous.
Rapids.
And, and you lose control, and man, then it's all over. I tell you, you can't operate an automobile in that condition, and no time. And people say, "Well, I've got to rush." Hey, when you got a serious situation out there, please take your time and don't worry about how late you're going to be.
I know, driving around yesterday in it. Some people, I was going 25, were super slow. I mean, you had to. But there were some cars behind me.
David's Grocery.
Hi, morning.
This is David's Grocery. What can I do for you?
Probably need some milk and some turkey.
Okay.
Probably some vanilla yogurt.
Vanilla yogurt, okay.
Probably some waffles.
Okay, we'll do that.
Some Aunt Jemima syrup.
Aunt Jemima, that strong syrup or what kind? Light syrup or dark syrup?
Dark, I guess, for waffles.
Okay, I got you. But now you got to have...
then that's about it.
Okay, from...
My kids had powdered donuts, Little Debbie powdered donuts this morning, and then they were eating yogurt, and I think they're about to eat waffles.
Sounds like real good stuff.
Sounds like our breakfast we have at our house, Michael.
They're the precious little children of my son.
Did Troy flood yesterday the way you were talking about the rain? I thought the Noah's Ark was going to be coming through there.
3.9 inches in the last 24 hours. That's a lot of rain. And in Raymer, Mike, Art McNabb's got 5.2 inches of rain.
24
now, the last 24 hours. Crow Hill usually has a... But David's been out of pocket, so I don't know if they've got a measurement coming from that area. But it is raining cats and dogs. All right, that's a good three. I've never heard it say any other way. Cats and dogs, or what?
There must be a ton of them. As much as people talk about the weather, I was thinking about, we had you've heard of a gully washer and a frog strangler, and
yeah. How about April showers bring May flowers? What do May flowers bring?
They bring you a girlfriend if you give them to.
No, they bring you pilgrims.
They bring you pilgrims.
I hope everybody.
Did Troy try to play baseball last night?
No, they didn't. They rained it out. There was no, and wisely so. Troy's got that artificial surface, and if somebody can play, Troy can play. But and at the same time, I think they need to rest their pitching too, don't you think?
Yeah, probably so. I mean, Alabama A&M, though, I mean, that might be a team you might want to play to get you some confidence back as well, though. So, you lost 4 in a row. I tell you what, Trump coming out yesterday bashing Sessions is not good for Jeff Sessions to win re-election. That's definitely got to help Tuberville.
What do you say about Sessions?
Well, he basically just, pretty much came out and said that Sessions was a coward when he recused himself from, the Russian probe, and basically says, kind of the way he worded it is, he kind of deserves everything that's coming to him now.
Well, one thing, though, about that, I mean, Sessions is a man of, conviction. He and law. I mean, he's going. If somebody would ask me if he would have done what the law said do,
yeah.
I mean, I would I would think he would do that. He's a man of
Yeah, it never bothered me. I can see
yeah.
why he did it.
I mean,
Everybody wonders, if Trump was ever going to say anything, and now he has. So that's got to be.
Well, you know why he has.
Tuberville's jumping all over this now, and basically, this is going to be, I'm sure, what he's going to be campaigning for the next 4 weeks. So the only problem with Sessions is, what Tuberville is going to have is that Sessions is out of Mobile, and that's where Bradley Byrne's out of, and Bradley Byrne got 200,000 votes. So who's going to get those votes?
well, it's just according to how many Auburn fans are out there, Mike.
Well, I think it's the Trump issue. If everybody loves Trump so much that they're gonna, if he doesn't like somebody, they're gonna go for the other guy. But here's why Trump did that. Tuberville won the Senate race, correct? I mean, in the primary, he was leading.
Yeah, he had more votes. Yeah.
Well, Trump has read the tea leaves, and he says Tuberville's going to win. I don't have to be careful about what I say with Sessions. He knows, obviously, he doesn't like him, and he thinks that, and he knows that the guy running against him, basing his whole campaign about singing the praises of Donald Trump. So he has nothing to lose by. In other words, I guess his fear would be if Sessions won, and then Sessions could one day hurt him as one of 100 senators. But he thinks that reality is now not very likely.
It's just funny to me. I literally saw Tuberville a few months ago. He had probably about 6 or 7 guys right down the road in Grayton at AJ's Bar and Grill, sitting back watching NFL football games. And now he possibly could be a U.S. senator in Alabama. It's just funny.
Is he? He at one time owned part of the Florida.
Old Florida Fish House, but that's down in Seagrove.
Does he still own that, or I've eaten there several times. It's a good place to eat.
A family out of Missouri owns it now.
Well, he was a partner with David Stroud in an investment financial business, securities business in Auburn.
I don't think Tuberville remembers that fondly.
Well, I've been interested.
Hey, I'm waiting for that to come up.
Yeah, I have too.
All this will come up soon.
And of course, good football coach, and I could see how a loyal Auburn guy would want to vote for him.
Yeah, Trump in his tweet said the Sessions didn't have the wisdom or courage to stare down and end the phony Russian witch hunt, which led to the investigation of Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Trump pointed to the political post representing Sessions finishing well short of the majority to avoid the March 31st runoff. Sessions, basically, represented the GOP since 1996. Tuberville quickly responded and said, "Mr. President, I could not agree more. In 27 days, help will be on the way."
He'll be effective. You're right. He would be effective. He's hard-nosed, and he'll be, no question.
Yeah, but they'll all end up being the same. That's why I don't get excited about it anymore. I tell you what, the size of government will not be reduced and will not get smaller, regardless if it's the Republicans or the Democrats in office.
Of course, I want to say hello to all my friends at Bill Jackson Chevrolet, Bill Jackson Ford on the bypass right here in Troy. You want a deal, and I mean a deal, on a Ford car or truck or a Chevrolet car or truck. Go to Bill Jackson Chevrolet, Bill Jackson Ford in Troy, Alabama. We've got calls coming in just a moment. Of course, everybody's scared to death about this virus going on, and we'll give you some information on that today. It looks like, before it's all over with, Mike, there won't be any ball games anywhere. Good morning, you're on today in L.A.
Sorry, I got cut off. Something happened on the phone.
What are we going to do about sporting events, Mike? It looks like they're going to try to shut some of them down. What do you think?
Well, it's just one of those type things. I went to the pediatrician the other day, and I talked to the doctor and was asking questions about the girls, and the doctor, after the masks do absolutely nothing. People are just uneducated when it comes to wearing the mask, when it comes to this. And
somebody told me the mask didn't do any good. Is that true?
That's what she said. So,
But boy, don't you wish you owned stock in all the
Joe,
mask companies?
Joe Watson.
I mean, I don't know what else you could possibly do. I mean, it's one of those type of things where, I mean, you know, if you touch something and then rubbed your eyes or rubbed your nose, you could get it. You know, I mean, it's just one of those type of things where, and you could have it and not even know you had it. So, I mean,
Yeah, for weeks. I'm not worried about it. To tell you the
I've
truth.
heard. I asked the pharmacy yesterday about the mask, and he said they can't get them. They're evidently they're just out of them. You know,
Around the world,
somebody just bought them all up. You
I
know?
told y'all the story about me seeing the Chinese student at the post office with a big box. That he had found some and was trying to mail them back home to China.
Yeah.
But the way I look at it is, I heard on the news last night somebody said, you know, even if you get it, you're going to be fine in all probability. I mean, it affects older males primarily. And then the chance that you'll get it is minute.
Well, you know, if you look back or look at the flu, and of course with the flu vaccine and everything, thousands of people die every year from the flu.
Yeah, a lot more from the flu, and then the pneumonia is the one that nobody ever talks about.
Not trying to scare anybody this morning, but it looks like I noticed in Japan, Mike, they were not going to play any baseball in Japan. They were going to play the games, but it would be just between the two teams. They were not going to allow any people in the stands.
Soccer in Europe,
yeah.
In Italy, I think.
Italy, you know, a lot of people go to Italy, and they're starting to really crack down on it in Italy now. You know.
Yeah, we my owner, tobacco imports exports, and
you tell him to stay away from that.
Has a lot of family and friends in Italy, and it's just certain regions that have been hit so far. It's going to be beginning in 2021. They've announced yesterday that the Senior Bowl will now move to the new South Alabama football stadium. So Ladd Football Stadium will not host the Senior Bowl anymore. Is that going to bother you?
No. In fact, I think it's great, and that's going to be great exposure. You watch that that South Alabama program. When they get that stadium, and you know they've already got a beautiful on-campus school. That place is going to take off. You watch.
You know, Troy had they had a good deal there for a while. UAB was bad. They gave up football for a while. South Alabama didn't have football, but now you've got UAB spending all this money on their football program in a beautiful downtown football stadium, and then just like you said, South Alabama in the two most populated areas of the state. That's got to be tough for Troy recruiting to recruit against them.
Well, I'll tell you this.
Troy, if anybody ever remembers it, I still have the hat to prove it. Troy one time hosted the Blue-Gray game.
That's
in
right.
Troy, Alabama.
Sure did.
Yeah.
Had it right here in Troy, Alabama.
I went to it, and I was in Montgomery working for Cumulus Radio, and was a sales rep, and I remember when I heard that, I immediately called Mayor Lunsford and said, hey, the city of Troy needs to buy some radio commercials to talk up this game, and they did.
Talked to Johnny Williams yesterday, and he has just signed another long agreement with ESPN on his bowl games. And the new bowl game, they signed a 6-year agreement to hold that game every year, Mike, in a beautiful part of the country.
The Camellia Bowl?
Myrtle Beach?
Yeah, Myrtle Beach.
Oh.
That's the new Myrtle Beach.
Oh, Johnny
Bowl.
does that too?
Yeah, he's got it too, yeah.
Johnny Williams.
Hey, listen, ESPN.
Retires at the University of Alabama, making the most money ever made, and then he's probably making double that doing all these bowl games.
Making more than that. He's doing very well, and of course, you know, it doesn't surprise me. Hey, I'd put him up against anybody, and anybody I know of to make things like that happen.
Let me tell us.
He's a people person. He knows how to handle people.
Tell me what happened. How did he go from being a defensive coordinator to an athletic director?
Well,
I'll tell you how it happened is they were such a small program in Division II. Not only did he handle coaching, he also handled athletic administration work. Isn't that right, Dad? He did a lot of stuff in
business stuff
as well, not even on the field.
That's right. He was working with Robert Earl Stewart on things during that time, and let's just say this: he was for the move, and there was a group of men, no more than 10, that were for making the move to Division 1A, and Johnny was one of them, even though he was coaching and part of the staff. I mean, he was. A lot of people were going to him for to answer questions about it and so forth. And I tell you another, Walt Hennigan. Walt Hennigan was a pretty valuable person, and then of course none more valuable than Benny Beard.
Yep.
Yeah, but I mean, some people wanted to stay Division 2. You know,
oh yeah.
Didn't want to change.
There's still people. Can you believe that? There's still people that think we're crazy to go to Division 1A. There's still people out there, negative people. And the best move Troy ever made or will ever make.
They'll write books one day. That's the biggest growth change Troy ever had is when we went Division 1.
That's right.
In all athletics.
Because kids started seeing Troy as being bigger and better. When they could open up a magazine or everywhere, hey, they got a line on this Troy game now. You know, they're Division 1A. Hey, like it or not like it, that's huge in college sports.
Completely changed the brand and the perception of the college and the town.
Sure I would hate to say this, but if they took away the opportunity to wager on a game, it would kill the sport probably. That's how terrible it's gotten to be.
Wagers, Auburn was a 13-point favorite, had won 19 straight at home. Texas A&M was 14-14. Went to Auburn Arena and led throughout and won and beat Auburn last night in college basketball.
I watched that game, and let me tell you, Texas A&M got a big guy that is good, real good. Every time he got the ball underneath, he scored.
How about this? Troy basketball, they finished 9-22. Led by 8 at the half at Texas A&M and led with 2 minutes to go in the game against A&M. I mean, it just tells you how weird college basketball is.
Yeah. Well, look at Vanderbilt. They were awful, still are awful. Alabama beat them by about 17 and played terrible in Nashville early in the year. Then that same Vanderbilt team comes to Tuscaloosa and wins easily over Alabama.
Let me tell you a little bit about Vanderbilt. Of course, it's located downtown Nashville.
Yeah, we need to talk about Nashville, too.
And ladies and gentlemen, at one time, no team in America sold out their games as much as Vanderbilt. Every ball game, 15,000. And there are two very unique things about their Coliseum or the facility they play basketball in now, or three very, can you name them, Mike?
It's on the wife on the other
all right, well, you just missed the
I can answer the question. Too bad you lose.
Tell them the question first.
What are the unique things about Vanderbilt's gym, which I think is called Memorial Coliseum?
Yeah. Three things that are
well,
real.
The coaches' benches are under by the baskets.
That's right. Nobody in college basketball, to my knowledge, does that.
Yeah, it's weird.
They still do it. They still do it that way. Is that right?
And then the court is raised up, right?
That's right. In fact, the people that are doing the desk, the
sports guys
doing the book, they're sitting actually underneath the floor.
Yeah.
I mean, they actually write. They use the basketball court as their top of their desk. There.
And what's the third thing?
There's another unique third thing. If you hit a ball down the left field line for a home run, you hit the building. It's located right next to the baseball field.
It's packed in there.
You remember going to that original game that time?
Yeah.
The left field line is
the greatest win in Troy baseball history. They shut out Oklahoma State in the regional.
Right. Sure did. We had a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Well, Mike, can you tell us any more about the devastation in Nashville? Last I saw, there were 25 people who had died, or.
Yeah, as far as I know, that's the last I saw as well. So I was looking at some stuff on Facebook. I've got several friends that live in that area, and it definitely, was devastating damage. Could have been a lot worse as far as the death total.
Was it restricted to one area of Nashville, or was it pretty?
Yeah, it's kind of right around the suburbs of downtown, from what I read.
boy, the drone footage I saw it looked just as bad or worse than Tuscaloosa a couple years ago.
I tell you.
Well, you had Lee County, 2 years ago, where you had 23 deaths as well. I mean.
All right, and it's said 23, 20. I've heard 23, I've heard 25, and then people say there's worlds of people that are unaccounted for. But the governor of the state says that's not true, that everybody's accounted for. I've heard that.
I lived in Tuscaloosa on 15th Street when the tornado hit, and unfortunately, I think 50 people statewide died that day, and of course, it could have been so much worse. I mean, if it would have hit DCH Hospital or the university campus, and I'll never forget, I worked at the University of Alabama at the Brock Conference Center, and we couldn't get up with our employees. We couldn't get up with anybody for days because the phones weren't working. There was no cell service. All the telephone poles were down, and it was just mass chaos. But you heard all these horrible stories, like off 15th Street. I don't know if you know, there's like a little lake there where Mike and his barbecue was, and they just claim there's just 500 people in the lake they haven't been able to pull out yet. You heard all these other stories that people were underneath rubble, and they were saying at one time there was 1,000 people that were dead.
One of the saddest
turned out not to be the truth. Thank God.
One of the saddest things was the Alabama football player that held on to it. Now we're talking about a big, strong guy. Holding on to his girlfriend, and they were so terrible.
In the bathtub, I think.
Yeah, it ripped her away from him.
That literally happened less than probably 500 yards from my house.
Yeah.
Where I was living in that condo.
Johnny Williams, and I speak of my good friend again. He was driving down the street when it happened, Mike.
Oh yeah, thank goodness I was dating a girl at the time in Birmingham, and thank goodness every Wednesday I drove to Birmingham after work. And I was in Birmingham, and I came back, and everything around my condo was gone. I mean, it was just unbelievable. The roof was gone in the condo I was living at. I mean, it was just like Sherman-Williams was literally right next to my house, and it was evaporated. I mean, it was just crazy.
Sherman-Williams paint store, is that right?
Yeah. That's right, yeah.
Hey, I tell you, the sad thing about all of it, oh gosh, I shouldn't say that. The sad thing was the loss of life and a lot of things. But one of the things that I missed was that 15th Street Diner. You ever eaten there, Bryce?
I'm sure. Oh yeah.
Mike.
They ended up closing that on its own, though. That really didn't get a whole lot of tornado damage.
Oh,
didn't they get the Krispy Kreme donut place on McFarland?
Oh yeah, I was at that day I'd eaten lunch at Full Moon Barbecue, and later that day it was totally gone. Literally they were in the freezer when they found everybody in there. And then there were several kids that literally got down in basements off 15th Street, and basically, when they looked up, it was all daylight. The whole roof and everything was gone. I mean, it was just the craziest stories ever.
Wouldn't you hate to be trapped in a freezer? How did they get all those folks out of there?
I don't know. It took me, I think, 4 weeks before I could even get back in my condo.
Yeah.
Really?
Oh, yeah. It was just, I mean, the pylons were down on 15th Street for weeks.
Well, where did you live?
One of my best friends, Neil Green DeShera, I lived in his house with his wife and 2 girls, or 3 girls.
Of course, he lived there, too.
Yeah, well, I mean, he lived in Tuscaloosa, but I'm just saying, I mean, thank goodness I had friends that lived there. That I could stay downstairs and live there, while I was still working at University of Alabama.
I was in Pike Road, and there were tornadoes all over the state that day, as you mentioned. And I remember watching the news and saying, yeah, this is really something. And then what really got me is they cut to Tuscaloosa, and they had footage of that tornado coming. And I've never seen a tornado that wide. And then the other thing you thought was, my gosh, that thing is coming straight towards Tuscaloosa proper. It was in Tuscaloosa, down the...
Yeah.
I mean, it could have hit the football stadium, the hospital, you said, the library, the campus.
Exactly.
I mean, James Spann, I remember the famous radio meteorologist in Birmingham said, I mean, he basically just got emotional because he's from Tuscaloosa, and he just said, guys, all you can do now is just pray. Because, I mean, it was live on television. Everybody was going to watch it. It was just devastating. Can you imagine being a parent?
Oh, God.
Your kids in that?
Yeah.
I mean, I tell my friends all the time, I was like, if I would have been there, I probably would have been in the house on the couch with my legs propped up watching TV. Might not have been paying attention.
Yeah.
Or you would have ignored the tornado warning and said, just another tornado
And
warning.
McFarland led into that the biggest shopping mall in Tuscaloosa, and it's amazing that more people didn't get killed there.
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those things where every car in the parking lot was totaled when I got back too. So I mean, it was just
Throws them around like toys, doesn't it? Yeah.
Oh yeah, the devastation was just unbelievable. I mean, it was like being in a war zone. You remember I called you that day? I'd driven back from Birmingham, and you called me live on the air, and I'd not gotten to the damage yet. I went to the university because the university had no damage. You would have think, nothing had happened. There was like, all the maintenance departments out there cutting grass and people just going about their daily life on the campus. And then all of a sudden, when I actually got close enough, I had to probably walk a mile just so I could see what had happened. It was just unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about.
And then it took years. I mean, probably still is. I mean, I went to Tuscaloosa year and a half after that, and I was still stunned by all the it's like Hurricane Opal here in Troy.
Yeah.
It took 2 years before everything looked normal again.
Yeah, DCA's past there, like Alberta, that area over there. I mean, it was just devastated.
But something, people talk about a path. Mm-hmm. Right there in Cottondale is a little community called Cottondale. They call it a tornado alley. Mm-hmm. that is, and also Carbon Hill area of North Alabama. All of these people have reputations when there's bad weather, that tornado seems to come right through that alley.
Thunderstorms hit that little alley all the time too. Yeah.
Michael's got something he could share with everybody. We've done it before, but you better be careful when you drive in this kind of weather. You're a good example of that, Mike.
You talking about hydroplaning?
Yeah.
Yeah, that story's been told many times. Yeah.
And I'm a parent just riding down the road, and we look ahead and we see a bunch of people flagging people down, telling them to move to the other lane or whatever. And we look down at the bottom, we see a car almost completely submerged. And the only thing I could see was that it was a Jeep with a, what was that?
It was an Eddie Bauer Explorer with a Ducks Unlimited tag is what you saw.
With a Ducks Unlimited tag. And here I am, that is my son in that car. And I jump out of the car, I'm sure I left it running, and went and just sprinted down there. And on the way down, a guy hollered out, "The driver is safe." Bill Hopper from Troy, Alabama, had a lot to do with saving my son's life. He didn't stand up there and said, "Oh, look there, I bet that boy's going to drown, or that guy's going to drown." Well, thank goodness he and a couple other people went down there. But they still couldn't get you out, Mike. Tell them about it.
Well, I mean, the Hoppers probably had the front row seat. I mean, I passed them, and I was coming back from Tuscaloosa seeing Neil and Richard up there. I was probably up there for some KA weekend or something going on, and I hydroplaned. Apparently, they said I flipped like 5 times, and then luckily I didn't hit a car, and I was on the left side of the road on the I guess on the 2-lane or 4-lane road, and ended up going back to the right, and then I was flipping, didn't know what was going on, and it had been raining for 3 or 4 straight days, so I hit a drainage ditch that was like a pond pretty much, so that kind of cushioned my blow, and it was right next to like the cement culvert right there, and luckily I didn't hit it, but when I hit the water in the mud and everything, I was just like, well, man, I'm gonna be all right. And I was like, this is unbelievable. I was like, I remember looking up and thinking like, I'll be all right. And of course, I didn't realize I was upside down at the time. I kept on trying to get my seatbelt and attach it. Next thing I know, that water pressure, I see my front windshield shatter, and all of a sudden, water just starts pouring in. And next thing I know, I'm drowning because I can't get out my seatbelt. And luckily, somehow, I guess God just basically got me to move one more time, because I remember I accepted I was going to drown. I never forget. Like, I mean, I pretty much had just felt like I was drowning. I was going to die. And somehow I got my head just above water enough so I could breathe. And then I started screaming and hollering, and by then Bill Hopper was down, and then 2 or 3 other guys, 2 guys we don't even know who they are still. And I was able to communicate that I couldn't get out. I was trapped in my seatbelt, and some guy came over with a knife and cut me out of my seatbelt, and I was able to swim kind of underneath my seat, and they pulled me out of the water. And of course, it was just mass hysteria after that. I mean, there was like probably 8 or 9 people in the water.
Bill pulled you out. Of course, he knocked the window out and was able to pull you out. But
the window was already shattered.
Yeah.
But you know that they have those things now for seatbelt. They're seatbelt cutters, and they're also like a hammer slash seatbelt cutter. And I always suggest anybody get those and put them in their cars because you know I couldn't. You know, I was disoriented, so I had no idea where my seatbelt was to grab.
And at the time that you.
I should have been grabbing up, but I was grabbing down.
Well, actually, your seatbelts almost killed you, but then at the same time, they probably saved you.
My seatbelt saved me and almost killed me.
Yeah. Well, and let me just, of course, you didn't have any of the, what is it that you have now that explodes when you hit?
I mean, I think I had airbags. I want to say maybe they did. No, maybe I don't think they went out. I mean, I don't think they went off for some reason. Maybe because when the blow was in the water and it just wasn't, you know, the huge impact it could have been.
Well, the unreal thing, I looked around and asked around after he was out. They had him up top and so forth, and we were just feeling so good that he was safe and so forth. And then I said, who got him out? Of course, Bill Hopper went down there and Bill helped pull him out, but Bill didn't have a knife. And he hollered up there. He said, "We need a knife. We need a knife." Well, in a minute, Bill said he just saw a hand cut the belt, the release Mike, and we still, to this day, do not know who cut because the people asked and they said, "I didn't see anybody." It's really quite a story that nobody there saw the guy that cut
there's no doubt if people wouldn't have jumped in the water, I probably surely would have drowned. Because even if I got my head above water, I don't know how long I would have had.
And I would have been crazy.
So it was probably a matter of minutes.
Basically, I found like the one little air pocket in my car that didn't have water in it yet. Is kind of the way it works.
My wife and I had been over to Tuskegee to eat. You know, at
y'all been in Auburn to see Camille.
I know it, but we
had some gathering that day in Auburn, and y'all went there, and y'all went to Tallahassee to the House of Seafood.
That's right.
Hotel Tallahassee.
Yeah, that's a great place to eat at the time. And then when we were coming back, we were driving back to Troy, and this all happened.
What are the odds that you would drive by at the exact moment your son was in
That's
that?
right.
Oh, it's like one of the craziest stories ever. Yeah.
And then the person that was one of the people most responsible for saving your life is Bill Hopper, who everybody knows and loves here in Troy.
No question about it.
It's an amazing story. Has anybody ever told it in the newspaper?
I wrote an article about it.
Oh yeah, I wrote an article about it. It was
actually that's all. Most people found out about it. I don't think people realize how crazy it was until Dad wrote the article. Then I had people coming up to me like randomly everywhere I went, just giving me hugs and stuff for probably about 6 months.
And then people.
How old were you, Michael?
I was only 20.
Yeah, he was young, and he had that Jeep and.
I've been in Tuscaloosa all weekend, probably partying too much, and it was been raining all day when I left Tuscaloosa, and I changed the tire, and maybe had a spare tire on or something. I can't remember what was going on. Anyway, the tire I had blew out is what happened, and that's what caused me to hydroplane. And
the embankment, and it was a big embankment, steep embankment too. At the same time.
I see it all the time.
Well, how far was it from Sykes and Conn's country store?
About a mile.
I mean, it was probably about 2 miles past Sykes and Conn's, right there on the right.
Okay.
Coming back toward Troy.
The crazy thing was I was about to be in Troy after driving in the rain all day.
Yeah.
I mean, I was probably going too fast. I was probably going 65, but I mean, in the rain, in a rainstorm, that's probably too fast.
To this day, you don't particularly like to ride in the rain, do you?
anybody out there that's listening, you know how it is. You have no control, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. And the ice the same way. I worry so much about.
You think you're supposed to step on the brakes, but putting your foot
that's
on the
worth
brakes
saying
is the worst thing to do.
And I know on ice, you hear don't step on the brake, and if you start to spin, you're actually supposed to spin into the.
Well, thank goodness.
Turn into the spin.
Thank goodness we had some people that were not afraid to go down there.
That's a lesson I want to make. A point I want to make is that people didn't wait for the state troopers or the ambulance.
He would have drowned. He would have drowned. If they hadn't gone
all
down there,
the stories we see about these disasters, they're all the theme of all of them is what does the government do, or FEMA, or whatever, or the hurricane. What's the National Guard doing? Well, if you study a lot of these stories, the people that save the most life are regular citizens that just take the dang initiative and
again,
do it themselves.
Mike, if they hadn't gone down there, you would have drowned, wouldn't you?
I mean, I'm pretty sure. I mean, I'd gotten my head above water and was screaming and hollering, and thank goodness people were there. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I couldn't have got on my seatbelt. It was like almost like I was tied down in ropes.
Boy, don't you know? Isn't that terrible?
Well, you see this scene in movies that somebody crashes in a pond or a river, and the car's filling up with water. Matter of fact, what are you supposed to do if you get in that situation? Are you supposed to roll down the window and let the water in, or?
I mean, the crazy thing is, other than being sore, I had no injuries at all. I mean, nothing.
Did you go spend any time at hospital?
Yeah, I went just to make sure, but I mean, it was one of those situations where I mean, it was just to make, I guess, like precautionary.
Did you go in the ambulance, or did you just drive by somebody else?
No. I mean, I think Mom and Dad took me.
Yeah.
Once I got there, I was in the Hopper's car with their family after it happened. Or maybe I was in the trooper's car. I can't remember.
You were in the Hopper's car. I remember.
I was in the Hopper's car, yeah, and the trooper was there. Because there had been a couple of bad wrecks already that day, and the trooper took forever to get there.
On 85, now this was 231, on 85.
I'm sure the Hopper family, I'm drawing blank on names right now, but the daughter and the son, Adam and Lindsay.
Yeah, Lindsay, you're right.
I think they were still terrified of what they had seen the whole time.
Oh, yeah. I tell you what, it was, your daddy was shaking like a leaf, and your mama was in the same situation. It was a scary, scary moment in our lives, but I wanted people to hear it. I wanted people to hear it because there's so many people would say, well, I'll be liable about, they're worried about getting sued if they went down there.
Well, there's 2 points. Go ahead and try to save somebody's life. Take action as fast as possible. Don't wait for the authorities. And then when the roads are wet, Mike admitted he was probably going too fast, not past the speed limit much, but for the weather conditions, you better slow down. Although when you blow a tire, I mean, there ain't much you can do.
Yeah, you just better hold on, let's just say that, or whatever. But again, that was a terrifying moment. And what we're talking about is the terrible weather we've got out here right now. Almost 6 inches of rain in the last 24 hours.
I can't wait to drive in the rain today, man. It's going to be a lot of fun.
It's really unreal. And the same area that you had that wreck, they reported 5.2 inches of rain.
Yeah, that's the same area.
That was earlier this morning. It's been raining hard ever since.
What's the Johnny Cash song say? Looks like we'll be blessed with a little more rain. 4 feet high and rising.
Yeah, that's right. Raindrops.
My great friend Blake Crow just chimed in. Enough about Michael's story. Let's talk more about sports.
I have this about
in Birmingham watching the show this morning.
Michael. I'll tell you, I've heard that story now about 3 times, and that was your best telling of it ever. I mean, you added new details, and that was I would rivet it.
It was an unusual day, I promise you. Like you said, you would not believe how many wrecks on 85 from Tuskegee or from Auburn to Montgomery that we saw that day, and it was just unreal. It was nothing to see people out in the road, but at the same time, I didn't know it would be my son in the ditch.
Oh, I just can't fathom that. I mean, the odds, the probabilities of that happening have to be in the billions.
Yeah, well, I don't know.
Yeah, it was weird. Like they say, twins have consent stuff and Camille apparently had sensed something was wrong. It's what she had always told me that day too, which is kind of weird. So
Yeah.
Well, there was an angel looking after you,
Yeah.
and then that part about the stranger just reaching in and nobody knows who it is. I mean, that's eerie.
That was a real eerie thing. Was say, hey, everybody was saying who cut him out? Who cut him out? And
He didn't want any
Hopper
credit.
Bill Hopper said he saw a hand reach in there and cut it off, and whoever he was an angel that day for us. I'll tell you that.
You know, that tool, I've got one of those tools you said, Mike, and I got it because I remember hearing your story. The little,
Did you really?
Yeah, the seatbelt cutters that's in my glove compartment in my car. But it's also good if somebody just has a good old heavy pocket knife with them, which a lot of people carry.
People don't carry knives like they used to, though. Good old redneck got a knife on him all the time.
Yeah.
You got one on you right now?
No, I've got some in my house that I keep by my bedside, but
I know.
what about your dad, Ripple Amos? Did he ever have a knife on him?
Oh, yeah. He never went anywhere without it. A gun and a knife. Hey, a lot of people are like that. My daddy, of course,
look at there, Scott.
Oh, Scott.
That's what you need.
You're
Let me see
right.
that. Hand that here.
And see, look how he handles it. Like, look at that. How
This
he
is all
opens
you
that.
need. This is Scott Westfall from our Troy Cable producer. Just he carries this around. Looks like it's got some other little functions, Scott. The things it does.
Well, I tell you, that's a lethal looking.
But that could save a life in an accident like Michael
Yeah,
had.
sure could. And also, I've got, when we had the guy on, thank you. I need a cup of coffee while you're over here, my friend. He's from, he's a good old guy from Oregon.
And it rains a lot in Oregon, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Is it Oregon or Oregon?
The first one's much better. Oregon.
He loves Oregon. And, we were talking about this, we predominantly a sports talk show in a lot of ways. But he was saying, he said, why don't y'all talk about track? I said, track? Yeah, he said, I'm a Prefontaine. Hey, he's my hero,
Well,
Prefontaine.
when I think of Oregon, that's one of the first things I think of.
Is
Is
Prefontaine.
well, they just love their track, and all
That's
the big
right.
track meets are in
He
Oregon.
was the Mickey Mantle and the Willie Mays, wasn't he? Prefontaine was, wasn't he?
And Eugene is called Tracktown, USA.
Is it? Okay. And so you still see a lot of runners out there?
I'm sure there's all kind of Olympic hopefuls that are training there right now that
And
might not be going to the Olympics. this summer.
Prefontaine was the hero, wasn't he?
Yes. And there's always a lot
You got Nike and Adidas headquarters outside of Portland.
Yeah, okay.
Is Adidas
yeah,
up there
both of them.
too?
Yeah,
Yeah, Adidas is out there too.
I didn't know that.
exactly right.
Nike's in Beaverton. I went by there when I lived out there.
But Adidas is home company is in Germany, I believe.
Is that a hilly part of the country? Is it
of
real hilly?
Yes. And
Oregon towards the coast is extremely hilly. I mean, it is mountainous. You would not believe it.
coastal range, and then we also have the Cascade Mountains.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you got the beautiful Columbia River that flows through there. It's just gorgeous.
northern. And Eugene is also host a lot of the times to the Olympic trials.
Yeah.
That's what I think about with Oregon.
Prefontaine was like the movie star.
I mean, Scott knows. I mean, everybody's talking about grouper and snapper all the time. Shoot, you want a great piece of fish? Eat some halibut.
Well, halibut. That's why they're serving at the beach now, Mike, is halibut on anything,
Where at the beach do you get halibut?
I tell you, our place down there where we eat oysters, that's where they get the halibut.
They have halibut. Wow.
Halibut, whatever we call it.
Talking about the Olympics, a couple days ago the story was they might be canceled, but then today the story is that they could postpone them as long as the Olympics happen anytime in the calendar year. You could have the Summer Olympics in the fall or the winter, apparently.
Yeah. That's it. Mike's carries that halibut. Mike, I'm going to put you on hold. Good morning. You're on Today in L.A. How you doing?
Hey, Mike.
Will Matthews, won't you please come home? Will Matthews, ladies and gentlemen, will not be here this morning because of the rain. Is that right?
Well, I am in Alabaster, Alabama, headed north on I-65.
And you're in the hometown of my good friend Cam Ward. He was from Alabaster.
Yep.
He's a bright future. He's one of the future politicians that's going to go big time one day, I think.
Yeah.
What are you doing did you spend the night in Alabaster?
No, I'm driving. I got up early this morning and I'm headed to Nashville.
Are you? Want to see your cousin or what?
No, Mike, they're honoring our golf team after 40 years. We won the SEC 40 years.
Wait a minute. Are you serious?
Yeah, and so we have the honor of being honored as the Vandy, South Carolina game.
All right. All right.
We won 2 games all year.
I know it. Well, hold on one second. Let's bring Mike in here. Hold on a minute.
All right.
It's quite a good.
It is. Well, it was. Let's see here. Well, it might not do it this time. Let's see.
There you go.
There we go. I got you on, Mike. We got you on with Will Matthews. Will is heading up to 65 in the rain this morning. Have you run into many traffic problems already?
Well, I ran into a murder this morning.
What?
Yes. Up above Ayrton, a guy that he was wanted by the police was pulled over on a traffic stop, and the police officer got out of the car and starts walking up to the car, and the guy hauls off and runs. So there's a high-speed chase, and then the officer
really
finally
hear
gets
him.
him pulled over, and the
Dang.
guy's got a
Can't
gun.
really hear him. He's maybe
And the officer killed
phone
the man
closer to us now.
that was the runaway guy.
Is that better?
Well, he needs to do something.
All right, you got to do something. You're not talking through the mic, evidently. I know you're driving.
Well, then here I'll repeat the story so everybody can hear it.
So I mean, the officer had to basically, I guess, was in a high-speed chase and had to.
He gets him pulled over, and the guy pulls a gun on him, and he shoots him and kills him.
So all this happened?
The officer killed the guy he pulled over.
The officer killed him. Is that right?
Yeah, so I go by there, and there's probably 9 state trooper cars and 4 or 5 sheriff's cars, and they've got southbound lane of 231 blocked off.
Wow.
So anyway, it was the bad guy. He was wanted for felonies.
Yeah.
Well, how did you find out all that so fast while you were driving?
Well, I'll tell you right now, I bet he stopped and asked one of those state troopers, didn't you? What'd you do?
You're absolutely correct.
Will's not too shy. Yeah.
And
I know it's not funny.
I knew some of them that were there too.
Yeah, I know it.
Yeah.
But that was a heck of a...
What's Nashville seems like a major catastrophe area, but it's not
But
affecting.
this happened, though, where did it happen? Near Ozark, or where did it happen?
Happened to Arrington.
Near Ayrton.
In Ayrton, so it's right there down the road. Yeah.
It happened several hours ago, but they blocked the road off, and there's all kind of police in there still. I went through there about 5 o'clock this morning.
You're up early.
Well, it just so happens that your team's got a reunion. Who's putting it together? The athletic department, or just a bunch of you guys?
We've got, in fact, Vandy's got a new athletic director, and it's a woman.
Yeah.
And she,
I hope she's not single.
well, she's African American, and she played basketball at Vanderbilt, I think.
So she's
She got Alabama ties, I believe.
a real good coach. Yeah.
I don't know where she went.
Well, that's wonderful that they're honoring your group, and we're proud for you, my friend.
Oh, yeah.
And you'll be at Memorial. Hey, listen, we were talking about Memorial Coliseum, and we were talking about at one time you couldn't get a seat for a Vanderbilt game. They sold it out for years and years. There are three real unique things we asked Bill Rice, and he answered 2 of them. One of them was that the floor, that the team sits at each end of the floor, the end part,
That's right.
facing the And then the other thing was that they sit underneath the floor.
The floor is raised up.
Yeah, it's raised up.
Looking up at them, yeah.
All right. That's why the team has to sit on the floor. They'd have to have steps to get up, wouldn't they?
Right.
All right, and then the other thing, and you know this well, is if you hit a ball down the left field line, you hit the Coliseum, don't you?
Right next to it, yeah.
Yeah, right next door. I mean, right, actually, almost on the field. It's right there.
Right.
So, do you go back to Vanderbilt very much?
I have not been in 30 years, Mike.
Wow.
Golly, that surprises me.
You said y'all were the last golf team to win the SEC championship at Vanderbilt?
No, there've been two since then.
Okay.
I keep hearing Brant Snedeker was on one of them.
Yeah.
You never went up there to any Alabama Vandy football games?
The last time I went up there, it had to be at least 30 years ago.
Well, give us a report on Nashville and the tornado damage if you ride past any of that.
It was devastating in East Nashville, where it hit. And I think the death toll right now is 26, and there's 30 people missing.
Oh no.
So, you know,
The governor tried to say that's not true, and I hope that's the case.
well, there's 30 people missing.
Yeah.
Well, one thing you know, country music, being the country music capital, all those country music stars will raise a lot of money and do a lot of benefits, and hopefully,
Yeah.
give back to that community. I'm sure they will.
Now, all your rich cousins live over in Memphis, is that right?
Well, I've got an aunt that lives in Memphis.
Yeah, of course, she was a Carol, is that right?
No, she's on my dad's side.
Oh, your dad's side, okay, the Tennessee side, okay.
Yeah. My mother's people are all from Ozark.
So what did you think about Bloomberg dropping out yesterday? He just wasted $700 million. I mean, I guess he's worth $69 billion, so that was just kind of a,
That's
so amount of money.
That's chump change for him.
And he endorses Biden, so I mean, I guess now it's going to be Biden-Trump, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think Bernie's gone.
I mean, how in the world this happened? I mean, Biden looked like he was just dead. Fully out of it about 2 weeks ago.
Well, they made the decision that if Bernie had been the nominee, it would have been the end of the Democratic Party.
You feel like that? Do you think he would?
Yeah, that's
It
possible.
would have cost them the Congress. It would have cost them everything.
Well, I hadn't really followed it as closely as I used to. I used to be more of a political junkie. But Biden must have had it in the bag all along. All the attention goes to Iowa and New Hampshire. Those are just two tiny little states. What decides the Democratic nominee is who carries the southern states. And who carries the southern states is determined by who are the African-American bloc voters going to vote for. And Biden had them all along. So, I mean...
All along, yeah. And knew it.
Yeah, I knew it.
But I mean, Sanders won California. California's huge, though, isn't it?
Yeah, California's huge, but, the way they do the delegates, Biden got a percentage, so he still picked up a lot of delegates there.
We're going to take a short break, Will. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back with more of Today in L.A. in just a moment.
Trojan Auto Parts of Troy, home of Napa Know-How. Stop by and see owners Mike and Melissa Kilcrease and their Napa Know-How team with over 100 years of combined experience. We're the only locally owned parts store in Pike County, and we're fully stocked and ready to serve you. We pride ourselves on being your go-to parts store, not only for the simple items, but we specialize in those hard-to-find items as well. Trojan Auto Parts, the right part at the right price at the right time. Napa, a name you've trusted here in Troy since 1945.
Discounts, big selection, and really big deals. It's the big pre-owned sale. Only at Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep brand. Pre-owned vehicles start at $29.95. Over 50 vehicles under $15,000. $29 down. And you can drive today or take advantage of payments starting at $99 a month. That's $29 down. And payments starting as low as $99. From Montgomery to Dothan, the best pre-owned deal are Premier Chrysler Dodge Jeep brand or online at PremierChrysler.com. Nobody beats a Premier deal. Nobody.
A personal touch, a high level of trust. Whether it's checking and savings accounts, personal or business loans, or our local friendly service. That's what Troy Bank and Trust customers expect. But now we offer more. Free identity theft protection for our new and existing customers, protecting your family's time, money, and good name from identity theft. Because protecting your identity is now a big part of our identity.
At the Piggly Wiggly, we proudly support our local farmers and bring you the best they have to offer, all at cost plus 10%. When you shop local, you reinvest in your community. Remember, buy local, shop local. Piggly Wiggly, local since forever.
Had a renaissance, wasn't it? Back to our show, and of course brought to you by the Messenger. Don't live in Troy without subscribing to the Messenger. Of course, here's the catch. You know, the Catch is a magazine that they come out with in football, during football season, and in basketball, and this one comes out during baseball and softball. So it's got a lot of information about local high school baseball and softball teams in our area, and of course they're all off to a big start. They say that Pike Liberal Arts is so good, Rice, that nobody's going to beat them. That's a lot in baseball, isn't it?
They is Mike Amos. That's what you said 2 days ago.
Yeah.
But I'm with you.
They're loaded.
Now, we said the same thing about Pike County Bulldogs football team, and that was the case until the second round of the playoffs.
There's some things that have come up that could make a huge change out at Pike Liberal Arts. So, you know, there's rumors going on that they might even think about moving, playing a public school schedule. Have you heard that?
Oh, well, people have talked
I know
about
that's
it.
Opening up a can of worms, but I've heard it.
You know,
so many
people
times.
have talked about it for years and discussed the pros and the cons. I don't know if there's any real serious move, but you've got sources.
Well, I've heard it more lately, and of course, I think it would enhance their program. When you think if they played Long of Skipperville, Houston Academy, Arrington, Elba, Sampson.
Well, they can play anybody in the public schools.
What I'm saying, you see it in Montgomery all the time with all those private schools. They got Trinity and St. James and the Montgomery Academy. They've got name some more. There's some more.
Well, you got Brantley also in 1A.
Will Catholic's private school.
I think they would play all of those schools, or try to. I would.
Yeah.
I mean, you would play the smaller town schools around you, and then you don't know what conference you would be in, but I would certainly play the elite, prestigious private schools in Montgomery and Dothan.
Yeah, that's right.
And Pike Liberal Arts, trust me, they can compete with them and win.
The kid in baseball, they can compete against anybody in baseball. They're really good.
Probably basketball too.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that now.
Well, they just finished running
Mike, I don't
state.
think they can compete in basketball. You?
Against?
Unless they get a bunch of good shooters.
I don't know if they get their shots off.
Yeah. I'm talking about if they play Trinity or.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. That's right. But it would sure change things. I mean, it's a good school, real good school, and if they did that, I think it would change the quality of their sports program.
Well, the thing I would like is they could play Goshen and Charles Henderson in a couple of times.
Oh yeah, they could play them in baseball, no question about it.
That would be a huge interest in, especially in baseball.
Golf is another sport that would be enhanced by it. This is all hearsay, but at the same time, it's something that I would think they would consider. But
There's an amazing story in college basketball going on right now. Anthony Grant, the former Alabama coach, of course he was at Florida under Donovan, has Dayton, the number 3 team in the country right now. I mean, isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's where he played college ball.
And everybody said that, hey, this guy's the real deal, and he just couldn't win at Alabama. I don't know why.
Everybody seemed to like him.
Win at Alabama.
Yeah.
Wimp Sanderson.
The Wimp Sanderson, yeah.
Well, but I'm going to tell you something. When Wimp was at Alabama, the SEC was very, very weak all the way through.
I don't know about that now.
I do. You had Kentucky and Alabama, and that was it.
I don't know. Yeah, Arkansas. Arkansas was really good.
Oh, Arkansas. LSU had the Shaq and some of those teams. Georgia had Dominique Wilkins. But
they retired Chris Jackson's number. Of course, he changed his name later because he became Muslim. Chris Jackson, his freshman year, averaged 30 points a game at LSU.
Hey, I'm doing a story on Griff McCary, and Griff has Tourette's, and So in researching this story, I researched him, Chris Jackson, because he's probably the most famous pro athlete that ever had Tourette's syndrome.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, not near as severe as Griff's, but Chris Jackson, now Mahmoud Abdul Rauf is his name, was quite a story. He had a lot of struggles with his Tourette's that people didn't know about. But one thing he said in the articles I've read is that his obsessive, he also had OCD and ADHD, which a lot of people with Tourette's have. So that makes you it makes you want to that. It does do that, but the Tourette's can, but the other disorders make you want to practice more, or you get so much more peace in your sport. Think of all the stress and strain you have everywhere else in your life. Yeah. And Chris Jackson said because of that, he just worked compulsively on his basketball skills. And one place you saw that, he was one of the best free throw shooters of all time. And it's just, he couldn't stop practicing. He had to be perfect with everything he did. And one time in high school, he hit 283 free throws in a row without missing.
Isn't that amazing? That's good information.
Yeah, he played high school ball in Mississippi. They've announced the Alabama 8A game will be April 18th in Tuscaloosa, but fans going to the game need to know, due to the ongoing construction, that they'll only have a limited amount of seats, 30 to 35,000 seats for the 8A game.
I'm going to tell you right now, I doubt if they're going to play that game. I think the scare that this virus is giving everybody, I would think they wouldn't play the game.
In an open air stadium?
Isn't that a shame?
That's the trend. Well, everybody wanted to see this quarterback battle and see how they did in the 8A game.
Now, that's just Mike Amos saying.
I would go just to see, oh my goodness, drawing a blank. Is it Bryce Young?
No, I think, what's that guy's name? He's, might be some kid from California that's the hot shot.
Well, I hate to bring something like that up, but you watch.
Well, you're right. I hadn't thought about it, but you might be right.
I tell you what, it could mess up all of college football. We don't watch it. So that's the worst thing yeah.
Mike, I read something that, the PGA this year is in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And they're talking about canceling the PGA golf tournament because of this virus.
Oh, boy.
Hey, bring it to Shoal Creek.
but no, I think it's going to open up a huge can of worms here.
Yeah, Bryce Young is the star quarterback that everybody thinks is going to compete for the job.
Yeah. And gosh, I mean, that's scary to think that we could something like this could happen, but I think it might happen.
Michael, is Bryce Young already in school?
Yep.
Yeah, he enrolled in January.
Okay.
Where's he from, Mike? Where did he transfer from?
He's from California.
Okay.
The big, what's the name?
High school kid.
Okay. He went to a famous high school in California.
Yeah.
He's
Good.
He's the number one rated player in the United States.
I watched a couple of his games on ESPN, and he looks like the real deal.
And so he's already there now, is that right? Or is he not there?
Yeah, he's there.
Okay, well.
So it'll be Mac Jones, Bryce Young, and Tua's little brother vying out for the top spot.
Wait a minute. Are y'all talking about Alabama?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, you know this, Dad. We talked about that.
I know about him. Yeah, I know about him. And of course, he's a runner, and that helps him a lot.
He's small. He's smaller than Tua.
Yeah, he played at DeMatha.
Yeah. I want to mention Piggly Wiggly's got a bunch of great sales going on. I love their. Boy, I tell you, I had that cantaloupe. I love the way they cut that cantaloupe, and man, I've enjoyed it so much. And their produce is very reasonable, and you can buy grapes and watermelons all at a very reasonable price. And they do a great job in their produce department, and of course, their meat department's the best in town in my book.
They're saying now Dwayne Haskins, the Ohio State quarterback that is a first-round pick with Redskins. Apparently, the Redskins are not very high on him, and a lot of these draft experts, Kuiper and McShay, and some of these other folks now are saying Tua could go number 2 to the Redskins. That'd be kind of interesting.
God, the whole roster is already at former Alabama players.
Yeah, They got 9 former Alabama players on the roster.
Oh man, who's going number 1 again now?
Joe Burrow's going number 1 in the Bengals.
One, yeah.
But he's got small hands, they say.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I look at that a lot.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Well, his hands are actually very big, but for a quarterback, apparently, they're small. And they look at that, I mean, and it makes sense. The bigger your hands, the better you can grip the ball.
All I had to do when I think about being able to grip the ball, I think about Mike Turk. You know, Mike Turk was just 5'6", 5'7", and had real small hands. And back then, they used the old Rollins ball, which was a big ball, and you could hardly get your hand around it.
How'd he do it? And he passed it pretty good.
And that's what he threw.
Strong, though. His hands and arms are so strong.
Yeah, but how he was able to throw with the small hands, how he was able to throw the ball like that with a Rollins ball.
Where he's going.
What now?
Say that again.
Where do you think Tom Brady's going to wind up?
Tom Brady. Mike, you got an opinion on where Tom Brady?
They were talking about Brady the other day, possibly going to, the Rams or going to San Francisco or even the Oakland Raiders. But, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think they'll re-sign him in New England.
You know, they probably will, but at the same time, he's going to go where he can play, but, where there won't be any argument on whether he can play,
Well, Phil Rivers is no longer with the Los Angeles Chargers, so I guess he could go there, too.
Yeah, I hate it for Rivers.
He wants to go somewhere he can win. I tell you where he could go and win, and they'd have a chance to go into the Super Bowl is Tennessee Titans with Derrick Henry.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, if they just get him a good receiver, he can win at New England. That's what New England misses. They don't have a electric, great wide receiver.
Getting in all that trouble. If they would have kept Brown, that would have been a lot different team.
Yeah.
Well, you talk about a guy that just destructed, on his own.
They did
that. I mean, that was just terrible.
We're talking about all the Alabama players on the Redskins roster and people that have self-destructed. Reuben Foster did that. Former Alabama linebacker. Went somewhere and just kept getting in trouble, but he finally went traded to the Washington Redskins. They were going to let him play last year, and then he blew out his knee or did something.
Well, he's a great player.
He'll be eligible this year to play.
Mike, who was the one that stayed in fights all the time? A great Alabama linebacker that just couldn't get along with anybody.
He had drug issues too. Rolando McClain.
Yeah, McClain was a great. You remember how good he was?
He flunked so many drug tests. They had to kick him out of the league.
They did. Well, I know this, that he was a good player that just did not know how to control himself.
Him and Reuben Foster were two bad dudes. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. How about Evans? Evans has made it pretty well, though, honey.
Yeah, he's a starting linebacker for the Titans.
Can you believe that, and we've never really talked about this much, but how in the world is Reuben Foster and Evans living right there in Auburn end up going to Alabama?
Two of the best players in the country, that's something. Then before that, Troy got DeMarcus Ware, who will be in the NFL Hall of Fame in probably, a year or two?
Yeah, no question about it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer probably. And then you got O.C. Umenyiora at Auburn.
Yeah, they were both outstanding players.
Let's talk. That's 4 guys from little Auburn that are superstar players in the NFL.
I've said this, Umenyiora was just 16 years old when he came to Troy. And Coach Blakeney told me, he said, man, I think we got a sleeper. And, if you were around him, he was not one of these big, bulky weightlifter types. He was just so darn quick. He was just so much quicker off the ball than everybody else. And he did something one night. How many saves?
He had 7 sacks in an NFL game.
7 sacks in an NFL game. And they just couldn't block him. They tried to block him in 1 man, 2 man. He was just so quick and a great guy.
On that Super Bowl team, you had O.C. Umenyiora that played at Troy from Auburn. You had Lawrence Tynes, the kicker. This was all for the Giants when they won the Super Bowl. And then you had Jarrell Jernigan for Eufaula. You had 3 Troy guys on the Giants Super Bowl team.
No, that was something. No question about it. We probably, and I'm going to start getting him to come on our show more, is Coach Blakeney. What a personable guy he was, and he was that way with his players. He was a players type coach. He'd cut up with them, and he taught the jive with them, and or whatever language they spoke as far as kids' language. What I'm saying, he could talk their way. Of course, he had young twin girls that were around him all the time, and 3 beautiful girls that were around him all the time, and they had all these boys coming over to the house, and he loved to talk about that. And I tell you, a great guy, Larry Blakeney, and boy, what a job he did at Troy.
He let his coaches coach too. I mean,
That's
we
right.
go over there live. We just sit in the stands and watch practice with him.
Oh yeah.
He delegated and let him do
He
that
said
thing.
it right there. You're right. And
He wasn't super hands-on, especially later in his career.
yeah, and I tell you, what a guy, and he was here for 25 years. Is that right?
Well, he obviously had an eye for talent too. I mean, you just named a bunch of them. Golly.
Yeah, you're right. No question about it.
How Troy did win a national championship in 1AA is still one of those. I mean, that's almost kind of like the Braves only won one World Series when they had all those great teams.
Well, one thing they did not know, they were going to play with a tornado warning against the eventual winner. I thought Troy would have beat Marquette.
Marshall.
And then they went to Montana and played another snowstorm.
Yeah.
And then they lost to Georgia Southern and Troy in a fluke game.
Yeah, that was a fluke.
That's the year they should have won it. They were going to host every single game at home that year. They were the #1 team in the country.
And I tell you,
Jeremy Rowell was the quarterback, right? It was the year
Yeah.
after Kelvin Simmons, and I still think Kelvin Simmons is one of the best quarterbacks I've ever seen.
You're exactly. Boy, just look at the talent we've been talking about just in the last minute that Troy had back then.
You talk about the transfer portal, Mike, and I remember back then I would go to practices quite often and go to scrimmages. So I went to a Troy scrimmage, must have been in the spring, and I hadn't studied the roster, and there's this guy that came from junior college, I guess, that's in there at quarterback, and I swear it took me about 2 series to say, who in the world is this guy? I had never seen anybody more confident in the pocket, and his feet didn't move. He found the receivers. He could look off receivers. And that was one of the first times he was playing at Troy.
When he played at Troy, he was the best quarterback in the state.
And then I found out that he was a high school.
In Alabama, didn't he?
Oh yeah, he was.
Played at what school in Mobile?
Murphy. He played at Murphy.
He must have had grade issues coming out of high school. And
he was a great one. Let me mention something that just came across my computer.
All right, yeah.
What's left of it? We lost a great former Troy football player and coach. Just recently, and Mike, one of your favorites, wasn't he?
We mentioned Ralph Sanders passed away, didn't we?
No, we didn't. Ralph Sanders.
Yeah, Coach Sanders, of course, played at Troy in the late
you remember Ralph Sanders?
Bradshaw.
He at 215 pounds, he's one of the best football players I've ever seen at Troy. He played nose guard at 215, but he was mean and tough. And we lost him, and of course, he was a man of God, and had some ups and downs in his life. But boy, what a coach, and a beloved coach here at Troy as an assistant at Charles Henderson. Don't you agree?
Richard Calhoun sent me a text. He said I want to drive down to Troy one more time and go through the door drill with Michael Amos. Is what he said.
Boy, they love that door drill, didn't they?
That door was the worst night.
All right, I want you to explain it to everybody.
For anybody at a football practice, because you knew you're about to really have a collision, because you had no clue where you're going to tackle that guy or where he's going to run into you.
They have a door that would open, and once that door opened, you got to.
We know. No, you sit straight behind the door, and the guy was either going to go left or he's going to go right.
Yeah.
So basically, you're standing there trying to make the tackle, or you're standing there running the ball. I remember I went through it one time with Richard. Of course, Richard went on to sign with Vanderbilt, and I hit with my head. Richard hit with his head, and it about knocked me out going to the door drill with Richard one day.
I know. Well, that was I think they did away with that drill. I hope.
That drill was nothing compared to 3-point explosion drill.
I know that was. I think I put a stop to that, Mike. That's the worst drill in football.
That's the Oklahoma drill?
No, all right. He's sitting there. He's actually on his knees. Is that right, Mike?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, And the lineman, Brian Thomas, weighed 290 pounds.
And the guy just comes up and just hits him while he's on his knees.
Hits me right in his head, right in your head.
And your head, the head just slams down. I said, Coach, you're going to get sued over that thing if you don't stop it. And they eventually stopped it.
You would get hit in the head, but it would bend your body back.
Oh, I know it. It was, and you weren't learning any football at all. I mean, it was a suicide play. It was crazy. You're right.
That's how we started offensive line. I mean, of course, Coach Jeff Coat is considered one of the best offensive line coaches ever. So, I mean, definitely not being critical of him, but that drill was very painful if you're a player.
And I tell you, somebody else, the coach that replaced him did the same thing because he coached. He played under Jeff Coat.
Oh, Coach Fountain?
Yeah, Coach Fountain did the same thing. Coach Fountain's the guy I talked to about it, and he agreed. It's the worst drill I can ever remember in football.
Yeah, Coach Sanders had that slick back hair, and he was our history teacher, and he'd always jog after practice and before practice. And he was the history teacher, and Camille and I would be in history together.
And all the girls just were crazy about it, weren't they?
And a lot of times he would say, well, this is about all we have, to learn today. If Michael can answer these 10 sports questions off the Dauphin Eagle newspaper, he had 2 newspapers every day in the class. He had a Dauphin Eagle and a Munger Advertiser. And he would ask me box score questions and ask me all kinds of different other questions. And if I could get the questions right, we'd sit there for 20 minutes and just talk. The whole class would. Yeah. And every single time I got it right, because I'd watch SportsCenter probably about 4 or 5 times a night.
Yeah, that was my problem. We should have took that TV away from you.
Well, it sounds like a coach that had taught all he wanted to teach, and so.
Yeah, you're right.
You know how it was with history teachers. I mean, it was, once you got to a point, at the end of the day, you kind of wanted to just...
I guess I can say this now. Everybody remembers Dr. Carroll, who taught at Troy. They had all the tattoos and wore the elaborate suits. Famous history teacher at Troy. I took him when I transferred back to Troy and loved it. He was a character. But I bet in that whole quarter, he actually taught the subject matter for about 15 minutes. He just went in there and shot the bull, talked about whatever he wanted to.
Dr. Trapp never used a book. He never used a book. He did it strictly. He lectured. You've heard of Dr. Trapp, and he lectured that like that without.
But he talk about But Dr. Carroll would be talking about some TV show or baseball or some people he met in Hollywood.
Now he dated one of his girlfriends was a starlet, a movie star,
I bet it. He helped finish a famous Pulitzer Prize winning, I think, biography of George Washington. That's why he became famous. And
he dressed like like they dressed during Gone with the Wind, and he'd come out to a baseball game. Coach Riddle liked him. He was very knowledgeable in baseball. And he was one of Coach Riddle's favorite people. And as a lot of them, Mike, start listing some of Coach Riddle's favorite people.
He liked
like Joe Dotson. He liked Hilton Fowler.
He liked Riley Green and Took
Green.
Took Green.
Yeah, exactly. He had a list of a lot of great people that.
And he loved all the old timers went to those games, including my grandfather Hickey Chapman.
Yeah.
I mean, he was old. All his old Tip Collie age people.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They went to all those Troy University
baseball games. Roy Crow, my father-in-law, and Chase loved to cook fish. He loved fish, and of course Mooneyham was one of his buddies, and it was and all those guys would sit down the first base line, and he would Chase be wearing his sunglasses and be looking into the sun. And he said one day I was looking into the sun, and all I could see was a bunch of old men sitting down the first baseline wearing sunglasses. And I said to myself, it looks like the mafia sitting up there. Look, and after that, they call them the Trojan Mafia. And all those guys There were coaches would not even come opposing coaches, Mike, wouldn't even come out of the dugout. They send a manager or somebody out there to talk to the coach.
Harry Baker would have been a big part of that.
Yeah, he was.
He wasn't shy about making a comment.
And C.F. Rowland was another big friend, and of course nobody was bigger.
I bet there were about 50 of them that were at every game.
Well, probably the biggest of them all was my buddy that sold refrigerators and TVs, one of the great salesmen of all time.
My mom was a huge sports fan, and she went to all those early Troy Chase Riddle baseball games.
Oh, yeah.
Another thing Mom did that was kind of funny is she got in the track of all things because Doc Anderson, we went to the same church.
Yeah.
Somehow he knew my mom was a sports fan, and he needed help scoring track meets that came to Troy, and he asked my mom, and every track meet that came to Troy, she'd be up in the press box keeping up with the results. And
maybe your all-time was E.C. Oswald. Boy, he was great, and of course the late E.C. Oswald. All those guys are gone now, but what great people they were.
They were. And, I wish I miss them all.
And, and of course,
there's nobody like them today, is there?
No. And you say we need some money for a jacket, and one day I used to get tired of seeing blue, yellow, green, red, purple jackets. And those jackets they wore were the junior college jackets, because the guy had to have something to keep them warm. And I told Chase one day, I said, Chase, can I, if I raise enough money, can I buy y'all some jackets? Heck, in about a half hour, I'd already raised all the money. Everybody was glad to do it. And we had a Trojan across. It was black and with red and white lettering. And Mike, you got one of them today, don't you? He's gone now. He's out of here.
See, you took the initiative to do it. That's what you need.
But that was a long time ago. And, of course, Chase didn't care how you looked. All he cared about was where you won or lost. I think they had 3 bats. And I think you asked Mark Smart the other day. They had 3 bats to pick from. Now they got 40,
talking to Max Howell and hearing those stories about when he coached at Troy, when Sim Bird was playing and we won the national championship, one thing that stuck out to me is he says he came with Billy Atkins. It was him, and there was like 2 more coaches. There were only like 4 full-time coaches on the whole staff.
That's right. Philip Creel was the other one. He was former Auburn quarterback.
I mean, that's fewer than my high school had. I bet on my high school we had 6 or 7 assistant 6 coaches.
Oh yeah, no question about it. J. Jeffcoat probably coached the game on the college level as well as anybody's ever coached there. I mean, it was all business. It was no fun, and it was all business. And he won a state championship in 1980.
Well, he did.
With an old huddle wishbone.
And he didn't play people both ways like everybody else. So you spent all your time practicing one position. What's funny about that no huddle though? We ran it. I was the 3rd string quarterback. But I bet we led the state in delay of game penalties.
That's right.
I mean, we didn't have any tempo.
Y'all didn't try to do it fast, did you?
A couple times a game, we had 2 plays that you could pre-call, and we'd run them back-to-back. But so I never really saw the point of the no.
When they won the state championship in 1980, they had a little quarterback who later on was a highway patrolman, and he was smaller than Mike Turk.
He was the Charles Henderson Mike Turk,
he probably weighed 145, 150 pounds. And
Barry Tucker.
When he got behind the center the center was Ross
Davis, and he wasn't big.
He wasn't big, but he would get so low that the linebackers on the other team couldn't even see him.
Yeah.
I said, where is this guy, And they would run that option. And, of course, they had Jerry Beverly, and then, of course, a guy that I thought was one of the best players ever to play at Charles Henderson, Buddy Austin, was a great player on that team. Let me just say one thing, and ladies and gentlemen, I love the Lord Jesus Christ, and I'll go down in the rest of my life saying the same thing. But J. Jeffcoat did something. He was a very religious man, but he did something, said something one day that just stuck with me like very few things. a bunch of coaches. You know, J. Jeffcoat had terminal cancer, and he knew it. And all the coaches and a lot of the former players and guys that knew him and teammates went to Pensacola to visit with him before he died. And he said, "Guys, before y'all leave, I want you to know something about my situation. I'm the two things I'm gonna tell you about are great. And, you know, I use that word great all the time." He said, "If
Both things that could happen.
yeah, there are two things that could happen to me, and they both are great. They either find a cure for this disease that I've got, or I'll go to live in heaven with my Father Jesus Christ." That remark was one of the something that I think I could think about every day.
Coach Jeffcoat was quite a character. He's a man of great conviction and principles. You know, stubborn like all great coaches.
As stubborn as anybody.
He was going to do what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it. But you can't.
Probably one of the most conservative coaches. He was very, very conservative. Wouldn't you say?
Well, I just think about how all these players today will talk back to their coaches and wear their shirts untucked. And Coach Jeffcoat wasn't going to put up with it.
He didn't have to tell you but once, did he? Boy, what a man of conviction, tremendous conviction, and of course, a man of great faith. And I thought that was an unbelievable response to his condition.
I didn't really appreciate it when I was playing. I was a sophomore on that team. But he was a very young man when he was coaching. He must have been 29, 30 years old. He didn't comport himself like that. But
Of course, he coached at Troy when they won the
as an assistant coach for Coach Gailey.
That's right, and then later on won a state championship under.
I think he is one of his. It'd be hard to find many better offensive line coaches. I think he has to be one of the very best.
No, you look at Joey Dennison from Troy.
He
played
J. Jeffcoat protege.
That's right. That's right. He was sort of a model lineman. You know, you didn't have to be big. You just had to know the technique, you know.
Well, you talk about Ross Davis was the starting center. He was 160 pounds starting center.
And, of course, a great man and a man that life touched a lot of people. And he was, a great, great man of God. Hope you've enjoyed our show today, and you'll be with us again tomorrow, bright and early for Today in L.A. We'll see you then.